Hey guys, welcome to Free Tutorial TV and course about Python coding for beginners. In this video I'm going to show you how to use init method in Python, and how to use a keyword called self in Python. So I will continue with the class, which I have created in the last video, and this was the class of which we have created. And we have used this special keyword pass there, and pass we were using to create an empty class. Now I'm going to remove this pass, and I'm going to add a method call init. So I'm going to just write def and then underscore init and then press enter, and you can see this init method is created here. So this is like a normal method with double underscore in front and back of this is init keyword. And you will also see the self keyword is already added as the first argument of this method. Now this init method serves as a constructor for the class. So usually it is used to initialize some attributes or some functions, because this is the first method, which will be called when you create an instance of a class. So here we are creating an instance of a class, and this init method will be the first method which will be called when this object or instance will be created. So let's check what I'm saying. So let's say I want to print inside this init method that the underscore init and underscore is called. And let me run this course. I will change this to car and then run this code. And now when I see this result, you will see this line is called 3 times because we have created 3 instances from the same class. Okay. So every time in this instance is created, this print is called, and that's why this line is printed 3 times, and everything else will be printed. After that, whatever you are printing, for example speed or color of the car, will be printed after that. Now one important thing to notice here is I said init serves as a constructor. It's not a constructor, although it would be tempting to call init method as a constructor. Actually it's not a constructor, but it behaves like a constructor because it is the closest thing we are going to get in Python to our constructor, because it is the first method which is called whenever an instance is created. Now if you are familiar with other object-oriented programming languages like Java and C++, there is a destructor also in those kind of languages with classes. Now Python doesn't have any destructor because Python has an automatic garbage collection. So you don't need a destructor in Python because Python will take care of anything that should be taken care of. Now as I said, usually init method is used to initialize something. So instead of initializing the value of speed and initializing the value of color, let me just comment the code the first of all. So I'm going to select whatever I want to comment, and then I can press Ctrl// to command all the line. You can also go to code and then use this option with this comment with line comment, and you can see there shortcut for that Ctrl+/. Okay, so this is going to command your lines of code. And now I want to use this speed as the initialization value. So after the self keyword I can give the next parameter, which is speed here, and then the third parameter is the color here. And now to print the value of speed and color, I can use once again print. And then most of all I'm going to print the speed. And then I'm going to print the color attribute. And as soon as you do this, and when you try to run this program, it will give you an error. So let me run the program and it will give me the error. It says init missing to require the positional argument, which is speed and color. Okay. So once you create an init method and provide any arguments other than self is automatically provided by Python. Whenever you create an instance of a class but other than self, then you're right. For example speed and color argument, here you need to provide those arguments at the initialization of your class. So here first we will give the speed inside these parentheses, for example 200. And then the color, for example red here. Okay, same. we need to do for the other two instantiation of the car class. So let me do it for the second instance and also for third instance. And now let's run the code once again and let's see what happens. So now you can see everything works fine and no error is given to us, and you will also see because this print is called the first. You can see the speed is printed first and then the color. And then this line is printed after that. And that means we will get the speed, color and this line 3 times while every instance with different values, whatever values you have provided for the instantiation of your car class. Now usually you provide these arguments because you want to initialize the value of speed. So let's try to access the value of the objects speed and color. So let me just uncomment this code and let her run this code and it will give us an error. You can see this says that car object has no attributes called speed. So what is the error? Because we have not provided this attribute speed and color. But we haven't assigned these values to any attribute inside this car class. What we have done is we have assigned the speed of value to a speed the attribute and the color of value to the color attribute. But we have already commented those code. So how can we assign the speed and color to the car object? So it turns out that you can use the self keyword, and then using the self keyword you can assign their value to the current object. So self is essentially the current object. Okay. It's similar to using this in C++ or Java if you're familiar with those two languages. So you use self dot and then the name of the attribute, for example speed. In our case it is equal to whatever argument you provide for speed. So we have provided the same auguring, which is speed itself. Once again I can use self to set the value of for color here. So self.color is equal to color. Let me remove the semicolon because it is not required. And now when I run this code you will see that there is no error now. So because we have now used the self keyword to set the attributes of speed and color, so we can easily access the values of the speed and color using any object of the car class. So let me once again minimize this. So now let's talk about the self keyword here. So whenever you create a class, the first argument of every method, you need to provide this keyword, self. Now it's not necessary to provide this same keyword with itself, but it's a convention to write this self as the first parameter. The first parameter can be, for example, ABC. It doesn't method. But you need to use this ABC here also as a self and it will be totally fine. But it's a convention that we use the self keyword in order to indicate that this is the current object. So every method you will create you need to give this self keyword as a first argument of your method inside a class. Now you may also observe that here and I'm initializing this class instance. I'm not providing any self keyword. So even though in the init methods I have provided 3 arguments, I'm only providing 2 arguments here. So it turns out that you don't need to provide the first argument, which is self. It will be automatically provided to your class. So you just need to give the next argument whatever argument you give after the self. So we have given speed and color after the self argument, so we just need to provide those arguments after whatever you use after this keyword to call that self. So let's do the same thing with our second class, which is the rectangle class. And here also you have created this empty class, so let's remove the pass keyword, and instead of this pass keyword we will use method, which is def underscore underscore init underscore underscore, and here after the self we will provide the height as the second argument and the width as the third argument. Okay. And then we are going to initialize the attribute height and weight using this self keyword to self dot height is equal to height. Self dot width is equal to right. Okay. So this is how you can initialize your attribute using this init method. And now when you do this you don't need to initialize these values like this. You can directly initialize this height and weight using these parentheses. Let me provide these values. Let's say it 20 and 60 for the first rectangle, and let's say 50 and 40 for the second rectangle, and then we run this code. Let me just change the file here, and then we'll run the code and you will see it will print that area once again here. So this init method is used to initialize your attributes or whatever you want to initialize at there start of your class. You will do all those initializations inside this init method. So this is how you can use init method in Python. And self-declaration. I hope you might have learnt something useful. I am requesting you guys to like the video, share the video, subscribe the channel, ring the bell icon. That said, for this video I will see you in the next video. Have a nice day.